To Pair Encounters, and I am super excited. So thanks for joining us. We are definitely West Coast meets East Coast this evening. I'm here in the hills of Northern California. It's a gorgeous day. And my BFF in Tarot Tim, you know he made the switch with me over here. He's broadcasting from Dover, Delaware. Hi Tim, how are you?
I am doing wonderfully, Rebecca. This should be a really great show, and we've definitely got the whole country covered here.
We sure do. Yeah. I'm super excited. Like I said, I knew you were gonna join me for, the switch. So I'm sure glad that you did.
There was no doubt.
What's the weather like for you over there on the East Coast? Because it's gorgeous here.
It's like in the 60s. It was fine today. It's like, you can wear shorts and run around now.
Oh, good. So you're done with the snow?
Yes, very done.
Cool. All right. Well, like I said, welcome everybody. And for our premiere episode on the Pair Encounters Network, I am super excited to welcome our guest to the show, Robert Alvarez, the Psychic Witch. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everybody. It's my pleasure to be back and to be here again anew.
Exactly. And I am so excited because you were our very first guest back when the show premiered in September on Blog Talk. So I'm so happy to have you here with us.
I didn't know that. Wow.
You were our very first guest because it had the premiere show, which was basically me just talking, like me and Tim. And then the second show, you were our very first guest, which I felt was very fitting because I'm pretty sure I told you that my own personal mentor in tarot, his name was Robert. He was the psychic Graham of Philadelphia. So and he's since passed. It'll be 2 years. 2 years this month, actually, but he's passed. So it was very fitting to have you as our first guest. So I'm so glad to have you back. So Robert, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a lot of things. I am a WordPress blogger. I am a professional psychic. I'm an intuitive card reader. I'm an energy healing practitioner. I am a lover of cats, cheesecake, hairy men, not all at the same time. I do love the tarot. I have a lust for the tarot. I also love to use oracle card decks and divination decks. I love to spend time on the internet watching videos, and I enjoy drinking coffee, and I also enjoy lounging in bed, which I was doing earlier because it's been a busy day, and I'm like, I need to decompress and relax and be completely centered for tonight, which I am.
I hear ya. And it is
in a nutshell.
And it's, it's been that kind of day. It's been like an 8 of Wands kind of day. Just that go energy. I know for me, I'm just like squeaking in here, right around 3 because I've just been running around all day. So I hear ya. Well, I wanted to tell the listeners how I met you because I really
Please, I love that story.
It's a great story. Yeah, I had met you back in, last fall when I was on the East Coast just visiting because I had moved to California. But I still go back there because I have, family and friends and clients. And so my psychic sister, Maria Luna, and we like to read the cards together, and we do festivals and radio together. But anyway, we had gone up to New Hope to look around, do some shopping, but we had also said the night before that we really want to have our cards read. And it's funny that I feel like tarot readers, we still see other tarot readers, you know what I mean? Because we have stuff, questions, and we need guidance, and we had said the night before that we wanted to get our cards read. And we didn't know who we were going to be, how things would happen. But we really that person. We saw you at the restaurant, and I remember walking in with Maria, and we had and you were so, what I remember about Robert is you were so, your aura was so bright, so Maria and I were talking amongst ourselves, so how had gone up to you like, yeah, right? You know, do you know a good card reader? It was so funny because you were like, I'm a card reader. Writing it down, I will post it later that afternoon.
Robert, we're losing your microphone. Something terrible.
I feel like it was a great.
Actually, I thought it was somebody else's microphone, but I'm still here. But okay.
There it goes.
Yeah, so I feel like it was.
Can you hear now?
There we go.
I think we're
Okay.
good. Yes, we can hear you.
And I heard 90% of everything you said, and whatever I didn't hear audibly, I heard psychically. And, you know, I think I used the phrase with you and Maria, divine appointment, because it was the first time in almost a year and a half that I'd been in New Hope, Pennsylvania. It was the first time in the more than 10 years that I'd gone to New Hope that I went during the week. In fact, it was Friday, August 30th, 2013. And it was only my second time in Carla's restaurant. And the funny thing was, I kept lusting after the macaroni and cheese that you and Maria were devouring.
That's
because
true.
at the time, my doctors had put me on a sodium-restricted diet. And I'm looking at that like, I want it. And I couldn't have it. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to like, you know, and I've been told this by other intuitives and other psychics and other energy healing practitioners. When I'm looking at food that I love and adore, my aura tends to become even brighter. And I personally make a phenomenal macaroni and cheese. Not that box crap. You're fine. You know,
Me neither.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So it was just amazing how everything flowed beautifully. And a very dear friend of mine who's also a professional psychic, her name is Michelle the Enchanted Swan Graham. She had said to me 2 years ago, I need to work on my PR. So when you and Maria came up to me and said, do you know of a good card reader in town? I was like, yeah, me. It was like so natural. So I you know, so it flowed. It just beautifully flowed.
Yeah, it was great. And it was a great reading. You were so good. And it really was a chance, a divine appointment. And so I had said to you, how do you feel about coming on my show? And you were our very first guest. So again, thank you. And thank you for reappearing as we premiere here on Penn. So, Robert, one of the things that I started doing with the show that I didn't start doing with you and I think maybe the guest after was I usually open up the show now with my guest by asking them in one word, what do you feel lies at your core as a tarot reader? And we've had some interesting responses, you know, everything from integrity to creativity to truth. So what do you feel lies at your core?
Actually, the one word is goddess.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you. I mean, I'm going to expand on it a little bit because one word is not going to cover it for me.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely. By all means, expand. Yeah.
But, you know, I'm very goddess-oriented. I do spend time with angels and male deities, and I'm yet another happily recovered Catholic that works with the saints. And I found that when it comes to the tarot, it's an opportunity for me to serve the goddess. And there are several goddesses that are especially sacred to me, but the one that is my celestial mother, her name is Osset, but she's more commonly known as Isis, the Egyptian goddess of magic, witchcraft, and psychic powers, who, as I'm sure you know, is clearly identified in the High Priestess card. For me, the High Priestess card is a reflection of my soul. Even though my personal psychic advisor, Roger Pratt, told me that when people see me, they look at me as the Hierophant, which makes a lot of sense given everything that I do.
Sure, yeah. That's really beautiful. I love that. And I love that, that you have that. That's your word. That's what. So you're saying that you really incorporate the goddess energy into tarot reading? Like, is that your language that you pull from when you read?
That's a great phrasing. Yes, I do. Because there's a specific goddess prayer that I began using around the time that I became a professional psychic. And it's one that came to me, I mean, these days the term would be channeled. It's one that came to me more than 10 years ago. And it begins with Mother Osset, Mother Osset, Mother Osset. Thank you for everything you have given me and for everything that I have received. And it just flows from there. And it's a prayer that I've used, especially before private readings, especially before giving readings at corporate parties or special events. If, let's say, I'm running behind schedule and I don't have the time to engage in that prayer, because saying that prayer is usually close to 5 minutes long. I'll just say a quick prayer to all the goddesses of healing, of divination, of prophecy, and call upon the angels to guide my words, my hands, my thoughts. That way I know that I'm in a spiritually uplifted place when I engage in divination, when I divine.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you incorporate that. That's like your language. Yeah. Well, and you use multiple. You can pull from multiple languages, as I recall, because you have that, and then you're also fluent in astrology, correct? That's
Yes.
another language that you use. Maybe a little bit of numerology. I can't remember.
Actually, I do use numerology in my readings. I remember, and offhand I don't remember the name of the book or the author, but the author wrote that astrology and numerology are sisters. And I find that when I'm giving a reading, whether I'm using a tarot deck or a divination deck, I will include astrological information and numerological information, not just the client's astrological placements, but whatever's happening right now. Like right now, Mars is in Libra, so that's going to be a part of my readings. When Mercury is retrograding, and this is an interesting, as I would call it, a sacred sidebar, because I have found that whenever we're in the pre-Mercury retrograde storm, or whenever Mercury is retrograding, or the post-Mercury retrograde storm, the Page of Swords is constant in my readings when I'm using a tarot deck. It's like it never fails. And it, strangely enough, the Page of Swords always manages to surprise me, even though the astrologer in me is like, okay, Mercury is retrograding, and I'm reminded of that because I just missed 2 trains at the same time to go to my client's home. And then it's like, okay, so there you go. And then, pow, Page of Swords.
That's interesting, yeah, because you have that swift Page of Swords energy, like unpredictable also, which, as we know, the Mercury retrograde, you know, is. You know, it's funny to bring that up because I haven't really thought of it that way. I guess to pay attention to like, during a Mercury retrograde shows up in my readings, nothing immediately comes to mind, but the Page of Swords definitely makes sense. It kind of pops up.
Well, for me, pages have always represented thoughts and ideas not in motion. And everything that I've ever read about Mercury retrograding, it recommends not moving forward with any specific plans, goals. If most astrology books that I've read will also say that if one has to sign a contract, there to be a contingency clause so that one can go back after Mercury turns direct and say, you know what, this portion doesn't work for me, can we amend the contract? So, and it's one of those things where, see, I don't know much about contracts. I mean, I know that Judge Judith Scheindlin, who's commonly known as Judge Judy, is a master of contract law. You know, whatever's in these 4 corners. But with regards to me personally and professionally, I always say to my clients, well, if you have to sign a contract, try to see if you can have it revised after Mercury turns direct. And with some of them, they've had that option. Not a lot, but with some, they've had that option.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, with Judge Judy, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that she's like, the contracts and everything. It's very Queen of Swords to me, like very detailed.
Oh, she is.
Very,
See,
yeah.
I love that about you because I remember one of the first tarot courses in which I participated. The teacher had said, who is this person in like celebrities? I almost never read about celebrities. I'm usually, even though I'm very pop culture literate, there are just some celebrities I don't read about, and there are some celebrities that I hear too much about. And there are some celebrities I want to know a little bit more about, but then I wind up listening to their music or watching them on a television series more than like what's behind that individual. But yes, definitely, if anybody's a Queen of Swords, it is Judge Judith Scheinle. Absolutely.
Yeah, she's a big old Queen of Swords.
Yes.
Well, and Tim says it that way because he has issues with the Queen of Swords. I think that's his least favorite court card, maybe.
Oh, yeah, I would say so.
Is that fair? Yeah.
Yeah,
He doesn't like her.
Me and her butt heads.
See, I like the Queen of Swords, though. I feel like the Queen of Swords, she's the first one in, she's the last one out, she's not going to take your stuff, and she's going to get the job done. So, I don't know, I like the Queen of Swords.
I remember, and this again, it's amazing how many, I didn't begin reading tarot books until people started asking me to teach them the tarot. And I was like, I need to know what these traditional meanings are, because it was always intuitive with me. But one of the first things that I remember reading about the Queen of Swords is that she's one of the 4 counselor cards. And the other 3 are the High Priestess, the King of Cups, and the Queen of Cups. But the Queen of Swords is the only counselor card that has no direct or even indirect connection to water. So she's not swayed by her emotions. And interestingly enough, on numerous episodes of Judge Judy, Judge Scheinle will say, I don't care how you feel. If you want to know about how you feel, go to Dr. Phil. She will not be, I'm not entertaining your feelings. This is a court of law. We're talking about the facts. And so she's very like, this is not about emotion. She will acknowledge when somebody cries in her courtroom. She'll have Bird, her bailiff, get that person tissue, or she'll even hand them tissue to give to Bird to give to the plaintiff or the defendant. But she's like, I'm not immersing my emotions. This is law. This is how you feel. This is law. So I understand her because I know that I have a history of being a people pleaser, which I don't do as much as I did before, which is why I'm a little less neurotic in my world. But I have found that there are times, especially in my professional practice, when I've needed to cut those cords. And I had an incident recently where somebody had rescheduled an appointment with me with a friend of hers, and then she casually mentioned, oh, well, we'll just reschedule. And mind you, this was a telephone conversation, but I remember I had a look on my face like, what do you mean we'll just reschedule? This was the appointment you wanted. I even asked you, do you want 5 p.m. or 6 p.m.? So
Yeah.
I needed to rein in my emotions okay, we're not going to take advantage of Robert Alvarez, Psychic Witch, today or in the future. So we're just going to cut contact. And I don't have any ill will towards her. I really don't. But I knew that I needed to protect myself. I needed to say, this is not going to work for me. And I have a very strong connection with my psychic guides. There are certain things they will not let me do. The words literally will not come out of my mouth. I remember one of the other people who accompanied me on that wonderful trip to New York, one day she had treated me to lunch at this fantastic restaurant in Manhattan. And I remember I wanted to give the servers a discount on a reading, and the words would not come out of my mouth. It was like, I kept thinking it. Like, well, I'll give you a discount. But in my mind, I was coming from a poverty perspective, because in my mind, I'm like, well, they're servers, so they don't have a lot of money. I don't know that. I have no idea about that, And David, especially my primary psychic guide, he was like, you're not giving them a discount, and I'm going to make sure you don't talk. So, And it's amazing how now more than ever, if there's certain words that Spirit doesn't want me to say, it's like there's nothing coming out.
How you work with Spirit in your tarot reading. I know you just your practice. So you felt that it wasn't let you do, but you felt called to.
Robert, could you do me a favor and jiggle your earplug plug in?
Sure, like this?
No, where it plugs in the computer. If you're on a laptop, make sure your earphones are plugged into just the earphone hole and not the earphone and microphone hole.
Okay, sure. Wait, the microphone hole or the earphone hole?
Just the earphone hole. There's also one that has a headset hole. I'm just saying
Yes.
because you're. I can see from Skype that you're where we're getting the static from.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had a feeling it was me. All right, hold on.
See, right now it's perfect. Don't move.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
How about now?
Oh,
It's mostly gone. Let's roll with that for a while.
Okay. Let's roll with it. Okay, so you had felt as though you didn't feel as though Spirit wanted you to give a discount with the reading, but Spirit would still let you read for the person, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm hearing you say. Yeah.
And
So-
what happened was I did tell them, well, these are what my rates are. And they were like, okay. And they didn't have a reading, and that was okay. But the words were able to come out when I said, these are what I charge. This is what I charge for a private reading.
Okay.
And it was strange that I was using the term private reading because I knew instinctively that if they were going to have a reading with me, it was going to be at the restaurant, like when they had a break or whatever. But, that was just the term that came out.
Okay. Does Spirit guide you when it comes to your prices then? Because do you hear different things for different people? Or for when you, I guess, let people know what your rate is? Like, does it change? Or according to what Spirit guides you?
You want to know something? My personal psychic advisor, Roger Pratt, told me years ago not to give people discounts. And 95% of the time I take that advice because I've discovered over the years that there have been times where I was clearly and lovingly, divinely guided to give somebody a discount or even to give somebody a free reading, and they never took me up on it. And I'm like, okay, Spirit does not want me giving a discount for the free readings. But every once in a great long while, that flow, that energy will say, do this for this person. And I do. And it works beautifully. So for the most part, I will not give discounts. And I find that people honor me more. I find that I have less stress. And I find that there's a lot more honor, and I'm going to use another term, integrity, with regards to what I do. I find that most of the time when I've offered discounts, when I've offered free readings, again, either nobody's taken me up on it or, and over the years I've met people that have horror stories about giving free readings. And in fact, I remember I have a wonderful friend who is a professional psychic. And I remember vividly, there was a woman who she used to always give this woman free readings. And one day, my friend had the flu. And she was out of it. Physically and emotionally, mentally, she was just like, I can barely remember my name. And this woman had called her saying, I have an emergency, I need to have a reading. My friend spent half an hour on the phone with this woman, telling her why she could not give her a reading, free or otherwise. And all I could think to myself was, this would never happen to me, because I would make sure that I would not even entertain the possibility of somebody trying to take advantage of me like that. And I love this friend. She's wonderful. I'm just going to say her first name begins with the letter P. She knows who she is. I know who she is. But that was my first thought, like, this would not happen to me. and this is why this would not happen to me. And my friend is very intelligent, because I vividly remember she told me this 2 years after the fact. And she told me this while she was driving me to a train station. Because in my mind, as much as I love and adore her, had she told me this after she got well, I would have probably wrung her neck. And given that I don't know how to drive, she made sure to tell me at a time when she was in control of a car, when she knew that I couldn't take over the wheel. And she was just like, I'm going to tell him when this is all right. And she did. And she was showing a very Queen of Swords shrewdness. And it's so funny because she is an air sign. Even though she's a Gemini, and I would normally associate Queen of Swords with Libra or Aquarius, she definitely showed that Queen of Swords shrewdness, like, I'm going to tell him after this, years later, and she did.
Right.
And I still love and adore her. But I said to her, okay, you know that this did not work for all these years. Yes, Robert, I know. I know now. I'm like, good, because I hate to have to wring your neck. But I'm one of those people that, when I love and adore somebody and somebody takes advantage of them, it's like I don't operate mentally well. It's like, okay, you're going to hurt somebody I love, and I'm going to have to get some weaponry in the way.
It's very, Queen of Swords. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. But since then, she's discovered, like, okay, that's not going to work for me anymore. Because that she had to spend half an hour while she had the flu telling this person, well, this is why I can't give you a reading. And then the woman was like, okay, I understand, which was a lie, because she spent half an hour saying, well, this is really important. Well, if it's really important, then, I'm sure you could find another professional psychic in New York City to give you a good reading. Right.
I find that sometimes if you give something away free, they don't actually value it as much as if they have to pay for it. And for me, I read cards for a long, long time just as like a hobby.
Okay.
Because it was part of, I didn't think I was good enough to get paid for it. And that was a switch that had to go on in my head where I knew that I had something of value to offer and I deserved to be compensated for that.
Absolutely. And for people who do not feel comfortable receiving money from, let's say, a friend or a relative, this was something that one of my private tarot students taught me. She said, bring something from my altar. Either bring fruit or flowers or incense or a crystal, because there does need to be that exchange. There needs to be like, okay, this is what I'm doing for you. Now, what are you doing for me, or what are you doing for spirit? I have a wonderful friend who, she'll tell people, okay, treat me to lunch, treat me to dinner, cook me dinner. That's her compensation, because it's one less thing that she needs to worry about. It's one less thing that she needs to focus on. And she gets this wonderful meal, whether it's in a restaurant, a cafe, or in somebody's home, and it's beautiful. And there is this, there is this honor that takes place. See, I have 3 planets in Capricorn. I'm like, cash, cash, cash. But I do love, I call them love offerings. I have a regular client who's been using my psychic services since September 2001. And every time she has a reading with me, every time she has a private class with me, she treats me to dinner. Or her boyfriend, who is just wonderful, will cook us dinner. And to me, I don't use the term tip anymore. I call it love offering. And then one of my favorite love offerings, I'm actually meeting with her on Friday. This Friday. So I know that at some point I'm going to have a wonderful meal. And I'm looking forward to that, because I have no idea what it is, because her boyfriend's working that day. So I don't know what we're going to order from. It's going to be Chinese, or maybe she'll take me to an Italian restaurant. I don't know. I don't care. I trust her. I love her. So I'm very excited about the whole thing.
Well, and I love that. The love offering, or even just, it's really the concept of gift for a gift, and to really have something that represents that, I feel, really restrictive energy. You know what I mean? As for when you give for someone, you're giving them your divine energy, but they're also giving you their divine energy and trust, to make it happen, to explore these things. So be it money, gifts for people.
It's definitely about honor, and that's a word that's become very sacred to me. There's an affirmation that I use that goes, I only attract loving, spiritual, and prosperous people who shower me with money, gifts, love, honor, and joy. You know, joy is one of my favorite forms of prosperity, but the honor part has become more sacred to me these last few years. So, you know, and I think we all have learned to tell the universe, you know, this is what works for me. These are the kind of people that work in my life. These are the kind of people that are going to make me happy and give me peace. And as you know, I also teach prosperity classes, so that's an integral part of what I do. In fact, every once in a while, if I happen to run out of topics in one of my prosperity classes, which is so rare, I'll whip out a tarot deck or a divination deck and say, okay, let's pull a card and see what the universe wants you to know about how you can be more prosperous. It's fun. I really enjoy doing that, but there are times when you know, I'm a lot more eloquent than this. When my syllabus for that particular class is so jam-packed, you know, the one that I led on Thursday, March 20th, the same day as the first day of spring and the same day the first the sun entered Aries, you know, I was teaching so much. There were so many topics I wanted to cover. We just got done 5 minutes before 10 p.m., which was the official completion time. So the opportunity or the possibility to have participants pull a tarot card didn't happen. Although, you know, it'll happen in the future, but there was a lot going on that night.
Well, yeah, and I think that the prosperity and the peace and surrounding yourself with healthy, you know, generous, spiritually generous people. I feel that that's three pentacles suit in the tarot, and I feel like, yeah, that's 10 of Pentacles, and preceding that is the 9 of Pentacles. Well, and speaking of prosperity, Tim, you had a pretty 9 of Pentacles week, right? Where you're just getting gifts from the universe. Tell people about that, because that's pretty cool.
It was insane. We had on the Tarot Talk, we had Heather Mendel, who's just a sweetheart lady. She did an oracle deck based on the Kabbalah and Tree of Life with the 22 major arcana called the Syzygy Oracle. I had ordered the book and the deck off of Amazon, and I got really excited because I got a text saying it was in. So on my way to work, I checked the mail and opened it up, and it was just the book. So I had posted on her page, and I was like, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to make lemonade out of a lot of these lemons because I was looking so forward to it, but I just got this, so I'm just going to read the book and I'll get the book learning in, and then, you know, whatever. Well, she popped the deck in the mail to me. And the next night I go into work and a girl comes in and says, oh, my mom made you this, and gives me this beautiful scarf that's rainbow-colored skulls. Just,
wow.
The night after that, I'm at work. One of my friends walks in and says, I saw you post you wanted this book on Facebook, and I have a copy here. So it was just gift. And, you know, it's like, ooh, I like this. So I was just open to receiving, and it just kept coming.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes you get in those universal grooves and you just have to be open to accept anything the universe offers you. Whether it's prosperity, spiritual gifts, you know. Something they laugh at me at work, I pick pennies up off the floor.
Me too.
And when I pick them up, I say thank you for prosperity when it's given, and I stick them right in my pocket. And I have a piggy bank that I keep them in. So we do that once a year trip to Coinstar, you know.
So here's a question for you, Robert, as the spiritual counselor, tarot reader that you are. You know, a lot of the, you know, as tarot readers, a lot of questions that we get are, when am I going to get the dream job? When am I going to get the dream man? When am I going to get the dream house? What do you feel blocks people from being open to receiving?
The first thing that came into my mind was a lot of people are afraid of what the answer is going to be. For me personally and professionally, I find that when I need to say this very eloquently.
Uh-oh, gotta get him back.
Yeah, we're losing him. Tim, what do you feel? Okay, so until we get Robert back in here, Tim, what do you feel blocks people from receiving?
It's really interesting. I actually had a client and it's funny because you read the same client last year. For those who don't know, I work at the shop Rebecca used to work at. When she moved to California, I took her position.
Belleville Cancel in Dover, Delaware.
Yeah. So I read for her, and she's like, well, this, and this was supposed to happen because I was told last year. Blah, blah, blah. And, of course, she doesn't know that I know you. And I got all these things coming up for her, and it was all about, job opportunities and schooling and stuff. And she's like, but last year, she said, I was like, let me tell you about opportunities. They're there for you, but you have to actually put in the work and go look for them. You can't sit at home waiting for someone to find your resume online and call you and say, we're going to give you this opportunity. It's like, spirit helps those that help themselves. That's the way it works.
Exactly.
And sometimes clients don't want to know that. They want, give me the lottery numbers. It's like, if I could get the lottery numbers, do you think I would be working?
Well, and you might not, you may get the lottery numbers and it may ruin your life. I mean, that's, an equal possibility. But Robert, I want you to finish your thought. Like, what do you feel blocks people from receiving?
The first thing that came into my mind was, and this is especially for people that are not very open. One of the things that I've said to clients and students over the years is that a reading will, at times, tell you what you want to know, but a reading will always tell you what you need to know. I've had clients that have said to me, well, I only want to talk about romance, and not one card that is traditionally associated with romance and marriage will come out. And I'm like, okay, you said I only want to know about romance, and the universe through the sacred tarot is saying, screw you, we need you to know this now. And it's happened constantly. I mean, we use counter power when this happens. You had this experience, Tim, just like you were talking about a few minutes ago. But it's amazing. It's like, and I vividly remember is I had a wonderful tarot student. In fact, I remember she wanted me to train her to be a professional psychic who uses the sacred tarot, which made me so happy. And one of the things that she did was she was given an opportunity to give readings at a psychic fair, and the first client that came to her table said, I don't want to see the death card. Now, here's the interesting thing, and again, this is where astrology comes into play. The death card is astrologically linked to the sun sign Scorpio, which rules the genitalia and the reproductive organs. One of the reasons why this woman had come to my student for a reading, she wanted to know about opportunities and possibilities of conceiving a child, of having a baby. Well, of course the death card is going to come out because here's divine intervention saying we're going to infuse our divine energy into your reproductive organs to bring you the baby you want. So, of course, the death card is going to be magnetized to that client, even if he or she has no conscious awareness that the death card corresponds to Scorpio, and Scorpio was the genitalia. So here was this, and of course she was putting it out there saying, well, this is what I don't want, but I'm focusing on it. So, of course, here it is in my face. And there it was in her face. I found it funny that my student has 5 planets in Scorpio. And I said to her, you need to remember this because you have, her sun sign is Libra or Capricorn. I don't remember at this point. But I vividly remember the 5 planets in Scorpio because she's only one of 2 people whom I've met in my life that have 5 planets in Scorpio. That's not something I'm going to ever forget for any reason. So I said, this is your card in a lot of ways, because here's the energy of Scorpio, and you have 5 planets in this sign. So for me, it's like, if you're going to be open to having a reading, be open. You know, it's not just about what the client wants to hear. It's about, well, what do you need to know? If there's a situation that's going on in your life and you want to just gloss over it and ignore it, you're probably coming to the wrong people. Because if they're going to come to anybody like us, we're going to be like, well, look what's here. Look what's here. So, yeah. So I think it's about being open.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah, very much so. Well, being open and being, open, but also open to change, I think. Yeah, to change and to transformation. And I'm a Scorpio rising myself with a couple planets in Scorpio, and I struggle with that, and I feel that one of my life lessons, a piece of the cosmic design for me, is to being comfortable with that Scorpio, the transformation, the constant transforming and regeneration and change and death to a degree, because like you said, Scorpio rules the death card. So I think it's very very challenging, and it sounds so easy, but it's really not. So good. I appreciate your insights on that. Yeah, I wanted to go back a little bit, backpedal to the goddess energy that you work so prominently with in the tarot. I know you had mentioned the High Priestess, but another card that I feel pulls from the goddess energy is the Empress. So what is the distinguishing, or what distinguishes these two goddesses as you see it, between the High Priestess and the Empress, the difference?
Well, for me, my primary pantheon is the ancient Egyptian pantheon. So when I look at the High Priestess, I see Osset, or who's more commonly known as Isis. And in most tarot decks, the High Priestess card does depict a full moon directly above the head of the High Priestess. And Osset, or Isis, is a full moon goddess, not unlike Selene, the Greek goddess of the full moon, or Yamaya, who's the Afro-Caribbean goddess of the full moon. And then, of course, you have the Empress. Now, it's interesting. Normally, with the Empress card, one would see a love goddess of the same pantheon, which in my case would be Het, who's more commonly known as Hathor, the Egyptian goddess of love, beauty, and sensual pleasures. But for me, and this is really in honor of my Afro-Cuban heritage, I look at the Empress card, I think of Oshun. Oshun is the Afro-Caribbean goddess of all that flows. Love, money, joy, music, dance. And for me, and it never ceases to amaze me how I'll use a tarot deck that has a waterfall. In the Afro-Caribbean pantheon, all of the Orishas, all of those deities, have a place in nature. They have a specific form of nature that's sacred to them. And with Oshun, it's waterfalls and rivers. And in most tarot decks, the Empress card depicts this enchanted Empress. And she is facing the card, facing out, but directly behind her there's a waterfall. And the river at the bottom of the waterfall is flowing to her. So for me, the enchanted Empress card, I call it the enchanted Empress card. To me, the Empress card is all about true prosperity, true knowing that you are receiving, that one is already receiving, that one doesn't even need to think about it, because in most tarot decks, the Empress card is depicted with this beautiful crown, which is crowned by 12 stars, which correspond to the 12 signs of the zodiac. The scepter is crowned with a gleaming, blazing sun, meaning that at any time in the Empress's life, she can manifest all her desires without struggle or conflict or stress. She has all of this nourishing vegetables and succulent fruit at her feet. She's wearing this gorgeous gown, which if you look, depending upon the artist, either has roses or the astrological glyph for Venus, which corresponds to the card, the planet as well as the goddess. And she's happy. She's at peace. It's like, I have no worries. I no longer stress. I have everything that I want. And whatever I desire that I do not have at this moment, I focus my mind, I tune in with cosmic energy, and there it is. So for me, when I look at the Empress card, my immediate goddess association is Oshun. Even though, as per my primary pantheon, it would be Het or Hathor.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, my pleasure.
Tim, what have you got there? I see you messing with something. Do you have cards? Do you have cards to show us?
We all have cards. What kind of a question is that?
I got a Goddess and Sirens deck, and I was just looking at the Hathor, which is a beautiful depiction.
I have that.
And,
well, I need to get that deck. That's the Goddesses and Sirens deck?
yes.
Yeah.
And not it's called Goddesses and Sirens Oracle card. In fact, I have the box right here. Look at this.
I'm not sure we can see your picture.
And it has a companion deck. Gods and Titans Oracle cards.
Yes, I have those too.
Yeah, I gave him that for Yule.
It's a great deck.
I'm the only one without a deck. Yeah.
Come on.
There's a box for anyone interested.
Exactly.
What's that? It's beautiful artwork.
It is, and Hathor actually is contentment in this deck, so that's a beautiful, beautiful
I love
card.
that. Right. No, I love that for the Empress. Very cool. How about you, Tim? Do you really pull from the goddess feminine energy when you read?
I do on occasion, especially if I'm outside at all.
Yeah.
Artemis and Pele tend to float around me for some reason. Usually if I've got some crap going on, Pele's gonna it's gone.
Well, she's the Hawaiian fire volcano goddess, right?
She's very fiery and she doesn't take any of my crap.
Right.
She doesn't take any of my crap. She brooks no argument. And my personal favorite goddess-themed divination deck entitled Goddess Guidance Oracle Cards by Doreen Virtue. And in that deck, it's a great deck. The card that depicts Pele is subtitled Divine Passion. And it's one of the few cards in that deck that I love the channeled message so much I know it by heart. It reads, be honest with yourself. What is your heart's true desire? And every time I see that card, it's like, okay, so what do I need to focus on? What do I need to do to manifest my heart's true desire? Whatever it may be at that moment. Because sometimes the best way to manifest one's heart's true desires is to just cut the crap and say, you know what, I've been talking around, I've been BSing, and you know what, I need to stop that. Sometimes we are our own greatest enemy.
Yeah, that's so
Definitely.
true. That's true. Well, yeah, and I feel like for me, the goddess energy is I feel it in a very ancestral way for me when I read. I can really feel, the divine feminine in like a personal way. So it's like the female ancestral line that I feel comes through rather than one particular goddess, but I feel that it's very, it comes through very strongly when I read, and there's definitely that tie to them when I read. So I love that. Well, I love that answer that you gave, Robert, goddess. I think that's beautiful and perfect. So, all right, well, we're coming up on time here. I guess, Robert, let the viewers know how they can get in touch with you.
Okay, well, the best way is my email address, which is thetarotman, TheTarotman @excite.com.
Okay. And I'll be sure to have all of your information and your links posted up on the show website, thetarottalk.com. Tim, how can the viewers get in touch with you?
I'm on Facebook under Timothy's Tarot, or if you're in the Delmarva area and you want a reading, I read out of Bell Book and Candle, which is 302-678-4545.
Love it.
Perfect. Yes, be sure and visit those fine folks. We love them so much down there. And I'm your host, Rebecca Brown. You can get in touch with me by emailing the show, the Tarot Talk Show, @gmail.com. You can also reach me via my blog, 365daysoftarot.com, and also tarotwow.com. And we also have the show up on Facebook, the Tarot Talk, so you can give us a like on there. Be sure to tune in next Monday. We are going to have Derek Hunter from Chaos Riddle Tarot on the show. Derek is the one who appeared on the show to just promote and give us some insight into his tarot-themed music album. So he's going to be joining us next week as we discuss some Thoth symbolism and along with Alistair Crowley. So it should be a really good show. Well, Robert, thank you so much for joining us again. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. You have just so much knowledge, and you're so fluid in all of these different esoteric, metaphysical languages. And so I always learn something new when I talk to you.
Thank you. It's a beautiful compliment. I'm honored.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to have you on. So we sure appreciate it. So, all right, everybody. Well, that's all we got. Be sure to check out the show website, thetarottalk.com, and we'll see you next Monday, same time, same place. So mote it be.
So mote it be.